Okay, in other words, that if I take a complete object, like if I take an element, like a resistor or a capacitor, put a box around the entire element, okay, I want to just deal with those systems in which this thing is 0. You can come and beat me up and say, but why? Why not? Why am I doing this? And I'm saying, the world is arbitrary. I'm an engineer. I want to build good systems. By making the simplification, I eliminate this, this squiggle thing and so on, I don't want to deal with it. I want to make my life simple. So this has gone to 0 because, why? Because I have said that in future, I will only deal with those elements, okay, for which this is true. I am going to discipline myself. I'm going to discipline myself to only deal with those systems. Okay, Maxwell's turning around and, mad at me and all that stuff, but tough. So this, what I've said is I'm making a simplification here, and this is one of the simplifications I'm making, and I give a name to the simplification, and that's called the lumped matter discipline. Okay? So I'm saying I'm only going to deal with elements for which if I put a black box around it, this is going to be true. And when this is going to be true, then notice there is no charge buildup. Current in must equal current out. Aha! So this becomes IA, this becomes IB, yes. Okay? I can now deal with IAs and IBs. And IA and IB are equal because this is 0. Notice that there's a whole bunch of depth here in the jump from here to here. Okay, as MIT graduates, you really, really need to understand why it is that we made that jump. And then go and use that and do cool things. All right. This allows us to define an I. We have a unique I associated with an element for the current through the element. We still have to worry about B, and I won't go through that in detail. The course notes has some discussion of that, and so does the textbook. So VAB is defined when del phi B, the rate of change of magnetic flux, is 0. So if I take the element and I take any region outside the element, this must be true. And you say, why should that be true? That's not true in general. Absolutely, it's not true in general. But because I choose to, I'm going to deal with only those elements. I'm going to discipline myself to deal with only those elements for which this is true and this is true. I'm going to limit my world. I'm going to create a play field for myself. You want to play, follow my rules. Okay? And that's called the lump matter discipline. So once you say that I'm going to adhere to the lump matter discipline, and this is true inside your elements, this is true outside the elements, you can define VA and VB, and good things happen to you. Okay, let me show you a few examples of lumped elements. But remember, a large part of what we're doing is based on these two assumptions. And to just go through the background on that, I would encourage you to go to chapter 1 of your course notes and read through just as how this came about, how that comes about. So by doing that, by adhering to the lump matter discipline, we can now lump objects. We can lump a bulb into a resistor. Okay, so we create a certain number of lumped objects, and now our universe is going to be comprised of lumped objects. So before this, when you went home, you talked about eggs and omelets and light bulbs and switches. But once you come to MIT and after you've taken 6002, you begin talking about lumped elements, resistors, voltage sources, capacitors, just little inky-dinky objects that follow the lump matter discipline. Okay, and they stick to very simple rules, and their math, and the math that you have to do to analyze them is incredibly simple. Okay, well, what can be simpler than V is equal to IR? So let me give you an example of a bunch of interesting lumped elements, and then show you a couple of really nasty lumped elements. Okay.
I'm going to switch to the other one.
Okay. So what you see out here, so we characterize lumped elements by the VI characteristics. Okay? You apply a voltage, measure the current. Okay, so what I can do is I can plot I here and V here and see what it looks like. Okay, I can characterize elements by their VI relationship. And there are a bunch of elements that I can create based on the VI relationship. So let me show you a few examples. So for the resistor, since V is directly proportional to I, and R is a constant, I get a straight line. That's the I axis, the V axis, and this is a resistor. What I actually have is a variable resistor, so I'm going to change the resistance value R, and the curve will also change slope. Okay, I change the value R because it's a variable resistor, and it changes slope because my R is different. Okay, next, let me go to a fixed resistor, and this guy here on the screen to your left, I guess, is a fixed resistor. And you see that its IV characteristic is a line of a given slope, 1 by R, and that's it. I can't change it. Number 3, I have another lumped element called a Zener diode that you will see in the 4th week of this class. And the characteristics for the Zener diode look like this. IV. If my voltage goes across the Zener diode goes up slightly, the current shoots up. But if the voltage becomes negative, I don't have any current flowing through it until the voltage passes some threshold, at which point my current begins to build up. Okay? So you can increase the current a little, increase the voltage a little bit, and you can show that the current starts building up again. So that's another interesting lumped element called a Zener diode. Let's switch to a next one called a diode. So diode looks like this. IV. If the voltage across the diode becomes positive, around 0.6 volts or thereabout, current begins to shoot up. But if the voltage is below that threshold of 0.6, then my current is almost zero. It's another lumped element called a diode. And you will begin using these elements in your 002 lives to build interesting systems. Next example is a thermistor. A thermistor is a resistor whose resistance varies with temperature. Okay? So this is a very expensive little dryer, hair dryer. And what I'm going to do is blow some hot air at my resistor, and you're going to see that its value is going to change depending on how much I heat it. So as it cools down, let me cool it down.